I mean, is life nothing but a bit of a weird journey in itself, let alone the one of spirit and soul? If there's anything that I can control in this world, it's what's happening up here and paying attention to what else is following through and how it's responding, right? So your body becomes your gauge, makes for a better and happier, healthier, wiser, more chilled you, which then extends to everything else around you. Be honest about the emotions and the feelings that are arising. It can be very difficult to face one's emotions because that takes you down a very deep root of understanding where your feelings come from, which often we have buried to self-protect. You trust that you're in the right hands. You trust that you are provided for, and it does become a life of deep gratitude because you understand how much you have. But when you understand that that sense of trust can be built and had for your entire life, no matter what's going on, it's a bit of a superpower.
Greetings, seekers of ancient wisdom, and we're back again for another show with Denielle. Denielle, this is the second time on Ancient Wisdom with Indigo Jedi. Are you glad to be back?
I am thrilled to be back. Thank you for having me again.
The last time we chatted, you were all the way on the other side of the world. I think in London. Was that right? But now you're back in sunny South Africa.
No, I said I am indeed in beautiful South Africa currently.
Excellent. So today we have chosen a very relevant topic for you guys, the viewers. We are talking about spirituality. What does spirituality mean? It's thrown around everywhere at the moment. Everyone is spiritual and on a spiritual journey and trying to um, connect with their inner self and all of that. So, we're going to talk about what spirituality means. So, for me, Danielle, spirituality was, for me, it means following my inner voice and being aligned with my inner voice and learning to hear and listen to my inner voice and that guidance system. So, that for me was maybe what spirituality started off as, but now it's become so much bigger for me. But what does it mean to you?
Hmm, this is such a great question. Um, Purely because it's relative to each person, right? For how they would like to identify and understand one's spirit or spirituality. But for me personally, it is almost that little guiding voice inside that is almost getting you to ask the right questions of yourself prior to you thinking, saying, doing anything. And those are, I believe your spirit, your soul almost is aligned to your morals, your values, your foundation for what makes you truly you. Um, the essence of that. And that's why I think I find this such an interesting topic because we're ever evolving. That's energy. It's never constant. It's in a constant motion of change. Um, so our spirit, I believe, is something that we learn about and understand better till the day that we die. Um, to the point of a discussion you and I were having earlier, is that we are in a period of change, um, in spiritual terms and soulful terms. We're in a period of change as a species in the world, and it's energy where people are almost starting to better understand themselves or sit with themselves, or, to some level think deeper of and for themselves. And that's pretty powerful, because, it can only work in a force like that if that's what the majority are on the same wavelength as. So I think it's a beautiful journey that spirituality and soul are never stopping one. It's ever constant and changing, because journey of self is a never ending one. Yeah. So that's my take on it.
So people say they're going on a spiritual journey. So I never really understood what that meant when I started my journey, right? Maybe 10, 15 years ago, that I got introduced to concepts out of religion. So I grew up very religious. My parents were very religious, Orthodox Christians, and we did the Bible, we did church, we did all of that. And then after varsity was my first time that I actually delved outside of that Christian box that I had been brought up in. And that was the beginning of my journey. But what the journey took me on was like, I just had a very inquisitive mind. So I really like to learn and read and investigate, watch videos, documentaries. So once I started with that first book, and I'll never forget that book, it was Conversations with God by George Welch, I think his name was. And it just opened my eyes. And that was the beginning of my journey. And then what subsequently happened was I got introduced to more documentaries, that somehow got attracted into my life, and then other documentaries and other experiences. And then I started trading the stock market using spiritual techniques, so to speak, but by reading emotions of the people that traded the market. And that was like a whole spiritual thing in itself. And then I started doing a lot of meditation work because I got drawn to that. And then I started doing a lot of yoga work. And then I decided to become vegan because that just resonated with me, right? Like I had been eating meat my entire life, like for 35 years or 30, whatever, 36 years or whatever it was. There was never a thought in my mind that I could have a meal without animal protein. Like I would have chicken or beef and there was no protein. It'll be like, oh, what a horrible meal. But then, when I was 36, I decided to give up meat because it just resonated with me. And this was like 8 years into my journey or whatever it was, 7, 8 years into my journey. And then the strangest stuff started happening. Once I gave up meat and caffeine and processed sugars and junk, and then I started eating a really healthy diet. And it took me 2 years from when I became vegan to when I found a good, balanced, nutritious diet. So I had to struggle a bit until I found the right diet. And then the weirdest thing happened was I decided to leave my corporate work, which was really good. It was a big solar business. It was doing solar installations all over South Africa, but it didn't resonate with me, right? My spirit, like it didn't feel right, and I wanted to do some other healing work. So I left that and started this Indigo Jedi health practice doing energy medicine. And that brought me to meet all the alternate healers in the Gauteng area. And we started doing wellness events, with all these practitioners. And then I started doing podcasts, got my channel up and running. And it's strange. So I wanted to tell this long-winded story of my spiritual journey that I never planned 15 years ago when I first picked up that book and read it. I had no idea it was going to bring me to this point. But I think that's for me what a spiritual journey is it's one step leads to another, but you sort of don't know where it's going to lead to, but you can just take one step at a time. But it's really magical, I think, when you follow your spirit. I mean, I couldn't dream of a better lifestyle, that I have. I have working for myself. I have time to spend with my children. I have time to do all these podcasts and all these things and research, and I have clients to who need help, and I'm able to help them. Using energy medicine and plant medicine, and it's just so nice to see people actually changing and healing um, through a little bit of my help. So that was the spiritual journey for me. But it's like it's a weird journey, isn't it? It takes you on quite a roller coaster.
I mean, is life nothing but a bit of a weird journey in itself, let alone the one of spirit and soul? And I appreciate discussions like this and questions like this because asking the right questions, I've learned and I'm learning and I'm seeing that are powerful. And when you ask the right questions of yourself, that's a whole other ball game. It's almost like you're doing your own research into yourself and for yourself. And, the concepts of intentional living and intentional lifestyle. And it's a very different way of being when you start asking the right questions of yourself because you've taken time to do that. It really is true what's been heard and said about, when it comes to meditation, when it comes to how are you spending your time alone with yourself? Is it productive and beneficial time? Uh, to sit with yourself is productive and beneficial time does take quiet, and it is the hard stuff, the fearful stuff, the things that we deem as demons within that are the most difficult to sit with and hear and acknowledge and sit face with. But the beauty about it is that because nothing's stagnant, energy, right? Anything can be changed up here. So when it comes to a spiritual soulful journey, absolutely, it needs to resonate with oneself. In order to know what that is, it is research and trial and error till the day that you die. Be okay with change. Be okay with not throwing the baby out with the bathwater because that's not how life works. You're operating from a certain amount of experience, right? For you. But don't be tied to it should be, it must be, it needs to be, it can't, um, just because the opportunities for exploration and play and research and understanding and unlayering and delayering and unlearning and relearning are so boundless. Um, what you shared about your vegan journey, I really appreciate because I can relate to a part of that where for 5 years of my life, I was vegetarian and, eating a balanced diet and eating wholesome, fresh produce and getting enough of the nutrients from different, food groups. And I would look at my plate and go, oh my gosh, this is a rainbow. This is glorious and tasty. And I was learning to cook great things. And, but what happens? Your body changes. My lifestyle changed. My exercise form changed. A whole lot of things changed, right? Change is the ever present constant. Is that I had to then readopt, a meat based diet because my body had changed. And that's absolutely okay. And I go according to using the thermometer of, does this actually make me feel good? Do I really, if I sit with myself and I'm aware of my body and my mind and, you know, what this vessel feels like from the inside out, I can very much pick up when something is or isn't gelling with me, right? If I'm being honest with myself. So it almost becomes this thing of, I don't have a guideline, I don't have a rule book, I have myself. if there's anything that I can control in this world, it's what's happening up here and paying attention to what else is following through and how it's responding, right? So your body becomes your gauge. And then you go and you keep refining and doing and or not doing and being honest, not being honest. You can't run from yourself. So I love a spiritual journey, and I believe it, it has to be intentional for how you land on a path of a spiritual journey. It's got at least to be the authentic want to. And when you authentically want to, you must also authentically want and accept and have gratitude for all parts of yourself that you're going to find and see and be faced with. And learn to love those parts, not fight them, push them away, or run from them in whatever way, shape, or form. So you got to be ready for it. You've got to ask for it genuinely and be prepared for the most interesting ride of your life. But it is one of the most rewarding, because, like you say, your construct of time, or the concept of it, or how you spend your time, or what you find yourself being able to fill your time with intentionally, leaves for a lot more of a fulfilled life. Um, because it's on your terms, your speed, because it's aligned to your morals, your values, your goals, your objectives to you. So it feels natural, it feels good, it feels right, it is productive, it is, in a sense, what makes you become more alive. Um, and in that way, giving those gifts back, it just comes naturally. It just becomes the space in which you operate from. Is it a space of love? It is a space of hurt. Is it a space of anger? We're always operating from a certain space, but you check your read or your body gauge, right? So I feel it's a very privileged one, because ultimately the journey to self makes for a better and happier, healthier, wiser, more chilled you, which then extends to everything else around you. You never get it completely right. Nobody's perfect. We're all just trying, but you're a lot more kinder to yourself to learn the lessons. Again, working or operating from a level of experience that you've sat with, and continue to sit with and unpack for the better. Keep going. Yeah. Yeah.
So I wanted to expand on something you said, that there's parts of ourself that we might not like, but you have to accept. I think is that the word that you used? Accept, or you have to integrate. I like integrate. Maybe is a bit of a word that means you're going to be part of it. And but let's talk a little bit more about that, because there are parts of me that maybe I don't like the angry angry version of myself. I don't like the version of myself that's scared, that doesn't want to confront. um, I don't like that version of myself maybe that's a bit jealous. I have those tendencies, like I can be jealous or envious. I don't like those parts. So what are you saying is, in a spiritual journey, you need to love those parts as well, right? You need to hold them into you and not push them away. And I think that's a difficult thing for people to understand, right? Because we are taught to push those things away, like, no, don't be angry, don't be jealous, don't be this. But you're saying learn to pull it in. And I think that's an important message that I had to learn on my spiritual journey, is to learn that these parts of myself that aren't so attractive, um, they are still part of me, and I can't run away from it, like you said. So, yeah, maybe let's expand on that.
Um, yeah, you can't run from yourself. A lesson is a lesson until it's learned or it's landed, and it becomes now a habit at which you're operating at that speed. But we don't have to do anything, right? We don't. But when one opts in for better understanding themselves, which is the spiritual journey. In many ways, shapes, and forms, this can come in. Be prepared to be honest about the emotions and the feelings that are arising. To your point of bury it, bury the hatchet, bury, right? Is that never gives peace. It never supports to clear the vessel. It sits within. There's no, sounding boards, etc. are important. Where you have your outlets, how you have them, how you express that. Emotions are important. They're another one of your readers. To run off emotion, I would advise against, purely because an emotional state is not a state of clear calm. It's a state of feeling in a certain realm, whether it is happy, sad, down, angry, whatever the emotion may be, that's telling you something. The trick is to understand, where is that triggered emotion coming from? Whether you're happy, sad, angry, disappointed, whatever the emotion might be, it's to understand where that trigger has come from. And often what happens is, for whatever reasons, we all have a story, we all are living, things are happening for us all of the show, is that it can be very difficult to face one's emotions, because that takes you down a very deep root of understanding where your feelings come from, which often we have buried to self-protect. It has been pushed away for potentially self-preservation, or you're not ready, or you're not in that space that you're ready to see your lesson or feel it or understand where it comes from. So it's a journey. Tread lightly. Be kind to yourself on this journey, to take it in small doses, one thing at a time, and do have help. There are professionals out there, whether it's alternative well-being like what we do, or whether it's a Western medicine, whichever route is preferable. But those feelings are triggers for your life and your experiences, and you read and you perceive what you feel based on you, the space of which you're operating from. So where you will operate from is based on what's sitting inside. So if you have trauma, if you have things that are all pack, let's press it down, push it down. There's never been a release. There's never been an outlet. So it will potentially allow you to snap, or think irrationally, or, not in a very clear-minded space. So it isn't easy. We haven't been taught how to. I think this is the thing, being taught how to read your emotions and process and sit in pause and quiet and unpack where it comes from, and the tools and the techniques that people have knowledge of and are here to share with you, in a myriad of ways, to help guide you through how do you process and soothe and heal what's coming out as it's coming out, right? To a point of where it's almost like there's nothing kind of left to come out. So what you're operating from via having let the stuff out, healing it, dealing with it, facing it, being in a space where you can, knowing how, you you're clearer to think about your purpose, right? Your spirit soul purpose. Why am I here? So what is that made up of? It's, what am I really good at? What do I love to do? What does the world need more of? And what can I get paid for? You are now then operating from a vessel of spirit and soul on a journey that is using those elements to give back to the world around you for its benefits. Because you're not operating from spaces of anger, pain, hurts, happiness. You're operating from a space of having distilled the emotion to get you to meet the objective. The objective is now different. The game is different. The script is different. The entire path and paradigm is completely rewired and shifted. So that's what it is. It was never meant to be easy. The journey itself is not easy because, truth be told, it's easy to run from yourself. It's easy to distract yourself. It's easy to occupy space and time for your mind to not think about what you might be inhibiting yourself from, right? Um, but that hard work, anything, 10,000 hours, whether it is an athlete, whether it is a whatever in this world who becomes, I suppose, more proficient and skilled, has to do the hard work. It has to be hard because it is. There's a lot that's going on inside of some of us, right? It's meant to take time and patience and those things that actually gear you up for a life of resilience and tenacity. It builds a sense of a you that is equipped to handle whatever's going to come your way, whether happy or sad. So the reward at but the reward that you receive from it is invaluable. So yeah, that's how I would approach it.
So I wanted to expand a little bit. You spoke about how hard it is, right, to release emotions that have been blocked. And I can vouch for that because I've been through that. And it was very hard. A lot of tears, a lot of anger, a lot of fear, a lot of emotions coming out that you have to deal with and release. And it's not pleasant. It is definitely not comfortable. But my God, once I came out of that, I was like, wow, I feel so much lighter. Oh, I was like, it was amazing. The first big release session that I had, it was so amazing, but it was very uncomfortable while I was going through it. But I wanted to tell you an example of a client that I had. I'm not going to tell his name, but I made some energy medicine for him. So um, I have a machine that can charge pills with certain frequency or energy. And this particular patient, I gave him a whole bunch of stuff for his kidneys and also some emotional release because your organs also hold a lot of emotions. A lot of emotions that we are holding can sit in different organs. So I gave him a lot of stuff for kidney detoxing, lymph system, etc. And bear in mind, these pills that I gave him were basically placebos, but charged with frequency, right? So there's nothing in them except frequency or energy. Anyway, I think 2 or 3 days later, he gives me a call and he's in a panic because first of all, he's complaining about how awful he's been feeling. He's like, Deepak, since I took your pills, I have been feeling awful. I've just been feeling terrible and I can't sleep and also he had some physical issues. So he had started getting this rash all over his skin. And by day 4, his whole body was covered in this rash. And he was complaining about how terrible he was feeling emotionally and everything. Anyway, I knew exactly what was going on because what was happening was stuff that was trapped in his body, both physical toxins and pathogens and whatever, but also trapped emotions that were trapped in those organs were coming out, were hypnotized, like the rats from the Pied Piper. The music from this energy medicine was like pulling them out of the village that was his body. But this patient didn't listen to me. So I told him what to do. I said, calm down. I know exactly what's going on. The music is too loud from my medicine, so you need to just slow down a bit, maybe stop for a few days and take it on a lower dosage. And, I told him get some eucalyptus cream, get camphor cream that'll help soothe this, the itches. And you're going through a healing process. It's going to take a couple of weeks, but once you're done with that process, you're going to have gotten rid of so much toxins physically, emotionally, mentally. But the client didn't listen to me and he ran to the doctors, right? And the doctors took his bloods, and then the doctors started panicking, like, oh no, ah, you've got too much inflammation in your blood. So they were like doing this whole panic thing, and they got him panicked. And I was very sad about this. They gave him adrenaline and cortisol, and they basically pushed everything back in, back down. It took a couple of days, but his rash went away and he felt better. But basically, it all went back in, and it just reminded me, the discomfort. Some people are not ready for that discomfort. And in this case, this particular patient wasn't. He wasn't ready for that, and I didn't know that my energy medicine was going to do that to him. I thought it was just going to give him a kidney detox and be a gentle thing like I've done for hundreds of patients. But this particular guy, the medicine started a very deep process that he wasn't ready for. He did not want to do it. He did not want to listen. And I think there are many people like that. So, what do you think is going to happen to those people who are not ready to go through that discomfort and to do the work? Like, what happens in that situation? I've spoken about this on other podcasts, but I'm here keen to hear your view on this.
Um, Truth be told, I decided for myself a while ago that everybody's timing is theirs, right? Whether you're ready for it or not, uh, anticipated, not anticipated, everybody's time is their time. For if or when the journey happens, when you're ready for things to come out and face it, I don't know. Um, it's just, I know from my journey that it could be about anything, right? Where I didn't want to stop biting my nails as a little girl. Because I would bite my fingernails so badly they bled. And I was resilient because my dad would put the bitter nail polish over and nothing would stop me. And it is that thing of only when you are ready for your lesson will you be ready to receive it. And I think that's just life, right? We kick and we fight and we scream. And I saw the funniest image recently where it had a little boy and he was being held by his hand was being held by a model, an adult model, and they were going down a ramp. But this child was kicking and screaming while the adult was pretty much pulling him along very calmly, and the caption for the little boy was me, and the the model was universe. And it is, we're always kicking and screaming through the lessons, but the lessons are going to happen anyway. um, and like I shared earlier, the lessons are going to keep happening until you're ready to receive them in your own time. But we do kind of find is that the lesson compounds the longer it's taking for it to land, right? It gets louder, it gets more obvious, more painful, more difficult, more blocking, more. It just feels like swimming upstream. So, it to each their own. I don't have advice or really a view on this one because it happens in your own time and not in an indictment on if or when it does for another person. I mean, the energy and the thought, and we sit with the belief that it's for everybody. We want everybody to experience and open up and for self-fulfill, right? For why you're here. That's the ideal. But like I said, for me, the depth of understanding for the sureties in this life are death, and I can control my thoughts, which then control the rest of my being. But even I don't know I don't know myself, for myself, if it's the right way or the wrong way, or if I'm on track, or, all I know is that it's my timing, because again, I have a gauge. It feels right. The timing of the present feels right for my now, which means I believe I am on track. It feels peaceful. It's a peaceful existence. But for anybody else, it's your choice. It's your choice, as to whether or not you would like to be ready to sit with the pain, and where you are super, where you aren't super, where you kind of begin and you take a pause, and it takes little fractal steps, or what might feel like 10 steps forward, a million steps back. It's still steps. No right or wrong way. Just if you can honestly answer for yourself that you're being honest with yourself, it's progress. It's good. You're pausing. You're thinking.
It's weird that, you know, spirituality doesn't have like a guidebook. You know, like Christianity, you got the Bible, go read this chapter, go read that verse, go read that parable. Okay, if you're Muslim, you got their big Bible, the Quran, you got the Torah. But spirituality, and this is also what I discovered, is there is no one guidebook for spirituality. It really is what Danielle said. It's really learning to be within, clear the blockages of your energy, and then just listen and flow with your spirit, right? I mean, your spirit is here in our physical being. I mean, some people say the body is actually in the spirit. The spirit's this huge, massive energy vehicle, and the body is like this little manifestation inside your spirit. But either way, it's really about connecting with your spirit, aligning and finding your purpose. I mean, for me, when I left school, I wanted to make a lot of money because my parents were teachers. They didn't have a lot of money. So we always grew up like, middle income. I never had DSTV. I never got the nice PlayStation. So I wanted to make money, right? So I chose a profession to make. I looked for the professions with the highest income. This is how deluded I was, right? When I was in high school, I was like, okay, what profession makes the most money? I didn't care about what I enjoyed. Like, who cares about what I enjoy? What are you good at or anything? I was like, okay, what profession pays the highest amount of money, and I will study that. I mean, I had no idea that that was not my passion at all, and it took me, I don't know, 20 years to find my purpose. And I really feel that I've got a cool purpose. Maybe I'm also deluded, and I've got this grandeur purpose that I've put into my head. People can also say that. But I found this really cool purpose of using natural remedies to treat people, and then also uniting all the alternate healers, because I started doing events, so I started meeting everyone, and the podcasts, and creating that platform. And my gosh, I really feel good about this. It's like I found something that I can say I'm really making a positive change in the planet, and that's a purpose for me that I've given myself. And it goes a bit bigger. I'm not going to give you guys all my secrets. You got to keep watching. But Danielle, is that what spirituality is for you as well? It's about finding your purpose, living your purpose, and being a positive contribution for the earth and all its inhabitants, right?
Yeah, again, it's such an interesting question, because all parts of our lives entail or are made up of a multitude of experiences, which all, whether it comes in hindsight or at the time or whenever it may be, gear you up to where you're going. or where you're going to land up anyway. Um, and again, till the day that we die, we actually we don't know. But if I take, for example, we are part of a world that once said these are the list of careers, right? These are, you could research, these are the careers that make the most money because that was important to you at a time for a very valid reason for you, right? Those were your goals, etc. And I'm sure in that journey and in that time, with that starting point of, yeah, gunning for money, that journey got you to here, which taught many things. And this is kind of the thing. It's not really about where you start or even where you're going to land up. It's that the beauty and the secret sauce is within the journey. It's not a goalpost, or yes, it's a tick box. I've done it. I'm there. I've made it. And I kind of enjoy and appreciate that, and why there's never really a right or a wrong answer, but your answer. It is trial and error. And, it took me a while in terms of my relationship of a healthy nature with money to understand that money is the commodity that the world operates on. It is an important thing. It is a means, but to have money means, again, based on the purpose or your why, money unlocks the means to be able to drive many things, right? That are needed, that take money. So again, the beauty about enjoying all parts of the process of life is that there's a free lesson in everything. And this is why spending time by yourself, because you have the time to sit and think about it with nobody else around, nothing else but you and your thoughts, is about what is the lesson that you're able to find in every instance of your life and scenario, regardless of what it feels like or it felt like. Um, so that kind of going on this journey and learning about it and growing with it. And um, a very interesting human once said to me, because I'd asked the question about purpose, how do you find this thing, right? And he said, but you don't find your purpose, it finds you, because you're asking certain questions. And when you ask certain questions from a place of authenticity, that's manifestation. And that puts into motion your ball of, okay, well, she's now asking this genuinely. We can start providing to her the lessons that need to come to start opening up this journey and part of her life. What happens after this? Who knows? Time will tell. But yeah, it's kind of how I would unpack it for myself.
So, purpose, I just wanted to add before we move on. I think, and I might be wrong, but I think before we come to Earth, like when we're still in spirit form, and before we've incarnated here physically, we've chosen a purpose. I feel like, hey, I'm going to come to Earth to do X, Y, and Z. And then we come here, we forget everything, and then life happens, and then we have to rediscover that. And I think that's what the spiritual journey is for me, is rediscovering that original spiritual essence that you came to Earth with. Because once you come here, they put all these layers and propaganda, and you need this, and they tell you everything is outside. Make money, have the wonderful food, or have these things, the cars, the woman, the parties, all these things are outside. But you have to learn that that's just noise, right? And that's a distraction from your true purpose, which is within you, your spirit. So, on that note, I wanted to mention something that's happened to me on my spiritual journey. And I think it might happen for a lot of people. Is your closest friends and family are going to be your greatest critics as you go on this spiritual journey. And I think now that I've gone through it, I think it's the universe testing you to make sure that you have that conviction, in your voice, and you're not swayed by other people, your closest people, your family, the people that have known you the longest. You're not going to be swayed by them because they don't understand your spiritual journey that you're on. They're on their own spiritual journey. You know, I found this for me. My parents were very um, critical, you know, of the choices I was making as I was going through. My closest friends, everyone was very critical. But I was a bit stubborn, but also my voice was like, wow, you know, so loud that I was just convinced that, you know, I should just follow my opinion and my voice. And it wasn't always a pleasant way of letting everyone know that I was going to do my opinion. But anyway, I've learned to be a lot more calmer and chilled out by then. But is that something you experienced in your spiritual journey, that you got criticism and, um, you know, distrust, and people were trying to take you off your journey from your inner circle?
Yeah, I mean, I think I feel that that's natural, right? With any kind of change or, um, not understanding for oneself, for whatever reasons, it can be scary, right? It's the fear of the unknown. It's and again, even that in itself, the fear of the unknown. How do you approach something like that, of not being afraid of the unknown? But it's the fear of the unknown, and it's absolutely our responsibility to do our best to have conversations that inform and guide and handhold gently the people that we consider our closest of tribes and circles of trust. I'm also guilty of, if I say guilty, I also took part of the route of, it jolted people. I did get very interesting feedback, but again, and everybody's family units or circles of trust, etc., are different for whatever reasons. Um, but I kind of approach the spaces of my family and my circles of trust and the people I consider my family and my friends. I kind of put myself into those spaces to be able to support me to put myself out there. Um, you know, the closest relationships in my life are founded on morals and values that are aligned. Um, and fighting is normal. It's healthy. Healthy debate and disagreement and confrontation is healthy, and being able to speak about things, and it's a journey, right? But it's become, because it wasn't always, but it's become spaces where you are your unapologetic, authentic self in order to receive the hardships. Because this is the space of a safer kind that I get to play and test myself about. If I'm saying that I am, an alternative um, wellness practitioner, in my heart of hearts and my mind, I've got to be able to be comfortable to have my character, my habits, and my behaviors actually be put to the test, to know that that is authentic and genuine. And if it triggers me, I'd like for that to happen. I welcome it, because it means there's something within me that needs to deal with and understand and better unpack. Not to say that when people, in, are, it's about to encroach on a boundary or it doesn't make me feel good, I'm not going to share why, hey, back off, or it doesn't make me feel good, or just walk away peacefully if it's not worth my time or the energy. But I've very much now, I have these spaces where I can just be and share and go off the rails, as it were, because it's just letting the emotion out, right? That's healthy. Um, to actually go, but this is an opportunity space for me. And that's why, as we go in life, some of us have an experience where the circles do get smaller and smaller, right? Potentially, in terms of your actual tribes. And these are the people you can be most yourself with in order to stress test yourself for when you are going to put yourself out there to the rest of the world that are not the safe space, right? So it's kind of a school in a weird concept or a different concept for when you get out there. Because remember, even as our family and friends, they're also dealing with their own stuff. They're also people too. They might be or might not be aware. They haven't been taught. And that's why it's so difficult for me to kind of say there's a right or a wrong way about anything. I can give you my way based on where I am now and how I'm figuring it out. But I have to take the stance of compassion for going, if it triggers me, that's on me. If I know my truth, it's water off a duck's back. So let me sit with the things that trigger me because I want to understand better. I'm ready for it. I'm in a space to, and it can help me to be a more considerate, compassionate human that the world needs more of anyway. So in essence, be about what you say you're about, right? At the very core. I can't put anything. I mean, up until what point do we stop putting our stuff, our lives onto the world around us? And at what point do we turn around and go, but I can change it if I want to and if I'm ready for it and I'm willing to do the hard work. It's not hard work. It feels that way. Anything's hard the first time you do it or the first couple of times, right? But sit with it, you tenacious, you're focused, you're just won't give up, right? That fighting spirit, does it becomes second nature. So yeah.
So Danielle, I love that you said you gotta persist, and it might be hard the first time, but you persevere and you keep trying and you're determined, and it gets easier. And I want to mention, I've done a lot of podcasts about different methods to deal with triggers and trap trauma, etc. So meditation is one, but there's somatic release, there's TRE, what's it, trauma release exercises, there's psilocybin stuff, there's tons of stuff. So there is whatever you need, there is, I guarantee you, there is a way for you. It might not be meditation, but it might be something else. So just remember that. But you mentioned that um, the perseverance. So I wanted to talk about my favorite animal, and this animal I always bring to mind when things are going bad for me, and things are usually going bad. But then I bring to mind my favorite little animal, the tortoise, and I think about the tortoise in our famous children's story. Do you remember the children's story about the tortoise and the hare? The hare running so fast, Speedy Gonzales going 100 miles an hour, and the tortoise like taking one step at a time, just cruising at the back. So I've realized after so many decades, I thought I wanted to be the hare or the rabbit, but I'm not that. I'm the tortoise. I'm very slow, but I'm very perseverant or very determined. And it's a very good quality to have when you get on the spiritual journey because you don't want to go too fast. Trust me. This is something that's a slow journey. It's something you take slow, take your time, be consistent, be steady, and that's how you get to the finish line. Not that I'm at the finish line. I didn't say that, guys, but I'm just putting it out there. Okay, so my next question. This is a big one, and I think we're going to close off after talking about this one. Trust. Once you enter the spiritual journey, you need to have some trust. So let me tell you what that means for me. When I was working in corporate, I was making a ton of money. So every month I had enough money to pay for everything that I needed. It was no issues. It was easy. I had money to spare. I had money to waste. I could like go on the holidays and buy the useless things from the shops, the useless things on Takealot. I was on Takealot all the time, just buying rubbish. Oh, it's on sale. You know. Anyway, once I started working for myself and doing this energy healing stuff, and the money dried up, and my savings dried up, and the income was like very little every month. And I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to get through the month? But you know what? It's been 4 years for me now since I've stepped away from corporate, and I have somehow just navigated it without too much trouble. And I think I've learned to trust. Maybe in the beginning I didn't trust that much, but now I've learned, now that I'm 4 years down this road, I have learned to just trust and just be and just do the work. Just do the work that I need to do. I'm doing whatever I have on my day. I have my one client or a podcast to do or whatever it is, or write a poem or whatever. I just do the work. And I think it's a big leap for a lot of people. I mean, for me, it's really difficult. But now that I've been walking my talk for a few years, it's like, okay, cool. I can trust this. The universe got my back. The universe got me. It's taking care of me when I need some money. It just appears when I need to fix something. Someone comes over, or my dad is like, okay, I'll help you out, or someone else comes and helps me, or whatever. It's like there's a real level of trust that you need on this journey. Is that something that you experience? I know I use the money thing, but I mean, it can come through all aspects of your life, right? Opportunities that you need, or projects, or I don't know, things that you need, technologies that you need. Just have to trust. And it just somehow, the trust is what brings it to you in a way. It's like somehow the trust is part of the process. Do you find that?
Oh, absolutely. From the point of trust, trust is everything in any part or scenario of life for things to thrive. And along my journey, the concept of trust has been quite an apparent one for when I didn't have it within myself. I didn't have trust in myself for what that mirror was like on the outside, right? Again, the I think one of the it has to be one of the fundamentals of a spiritual journey and a fulfilled spirit and soul is founded on trust. Trust in yourself that you have capabilities, that there's no imposter syndrome there's and it's not even necessarily a level of confidence, but there's a humble understanding of self, right? And with that sense of trust within yourself, which is built, it's built, it's crafted, it's created, it's refined, but that's something that you build in yourself, right? It is what it is. Has the ability to unlock abundance ultimately. Because you trust yourself so implicitly and in the energetic understanding and concept of higher powers and ancestors and spiritual guides and, a deeper journey of your soul and where it's been, you trust that you're in the right hands. You trust that you are provided for, and it does become a life of deep gratitude because you understand how much you have. The sheer fact of waking up every morning is my biggest gratitude. That means my life is concluded once, when I don't get to wake up one morning. And, Pak, I love what you mentioned about living one lifestyle and having come from where you've come from to where you do now. The concept of what brings joy and happiness is very different. The concept of what makes one wealthy starts to change. It can't be bought. It is in the truest sense the most simplest of things. Things like honesty, trust, integrity, love, compassion, empathy, the things that make the world a purer, better place, happier, more content, joyful, productive space for the better. That's what starts to happen. So trust is such a powerful one. It's a foundation for pretty much everything. Um, and it makes all the sense in the world when when one has been hurt, or spaces of trust have been broken deeply, or people have had experiences that are incredibly painful. It does. You can understand why it's difficult to trust, because your own trust and safety it almost feels like you've been robbed of it. But when you understand that sense of trust can be built and had for your entire life, no matter what's going on, it's a bit of a superpower.
Amazing. So I'm so glad we talked about this topic. I find it's so relevant right now because the energies on the planet have just raised like a huge notch. I don't know if you've been following the astrological stuff for this month, but there's been 1212 portal, which was yesterday, which is quite a big portal. We've got a big full moon coming up on Sunday, on the 15th of December. Then there's the solstice. There's Christmas Day, which is another big astrological, energy day, and then we've got a super new moon. So energies are really rising, and it's forcing people to confront their issues and forcing people to enter into a spiritual journey, whether you like it or not. I think this is the time. So it's a great, great topic. And I just want to leave the last little bit of information that I thought was the most important from this talk was that whatever is triggering you, it's a sign from your body that you have an energy block that you need to deal with. Whatever triggers you, if you get angry at someone or you get disappointed or whatever that bad feeling is, whatever triggers you into a bad feeling, that's your body speaking to you and telling you. It's a sign. So instead of ignoring, learn to listen to that voice because that is your spirit telling you what you need to deal with. So, Denielle, before we close off, anything else you'd like to add?
No, I just would like to share with whoever is listening, etc. Um, take your time. There's no timeline or prescriptive method to this kind of a journey. It's a precious, special, unique one to you, and just enjoy the ride in as far as you can, and you're equipped to, and it's possible, and where you can't, ask for help, no matter what that might look like or feel like, or do what you need to feel relief and peace and enjoy the ride as far as possible. So yeah, thanks, Pack, and thank you for having me again, and discussing this really, really interesting one today. Thanks.
So you gave me another point to emphasize, and it's enjoy the ride. So I just want to say that even though for me, for example, I really enjoy this destination that I've reached, but if you took away the journey from me, I would be so disappointed because that journey had so much depth of character building. That really what it was, for me was like building and molding my character and refining it and learning. And I would not actually reach this destination with all of that. So the journey, really enjoy it, embrace it. It is so much fun. It's not always going to be comfortable, but I guarantee you it is going to be for your betterment. So, Denielle, thank you so much. We really appreciate your insights and having this chat with us. And till next time, ciao for now.